Hello, everybody, and welcome back to VolleyTalk. It is Tuesday. We're a little bit late at like 3 o'clock Mountain Time. And today we are going through and answering all of the social questions across all of our platforms. Usually we just do this on Instagram, but we're also going to pull in questions from Facebook and TikTok. So if you guys have any questions, you can also comment them during this live and we'll be sure to answer them then. But we're going to go through our post here and hopefully clear some things up, and then also just react to the different opinions that are on every post and what we agree with, disagree with, everything like that. So I think this will be really fun to go through. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, but when I'm doing that, Billy, if you want to introduce yourself or anybody that maybe hasn't been here before.
Sure. Hey, I'm Billy Glisson. I'm a strength coach, exercise physiologist, and founder of Powercore 360. I work with a lot of rotational sport athletes for the last 20 years. And here today, we're going to focus on volleyball and typically power hitting, even though we get into vert and some other things. But here we go.
Awesome. All right. So this video is one of our masterclass kids. You can see him working in his basement at home, and then also here in his basement at home. So this video is one thing that needs to stop being taught to young volleyball players. Loading with a high elbow, we want to load with a neutral elbow instead. So that's what this video is talking about, and we got a lot of different opinions, some good, some agreeing, some disagreeing. So I want to go through them and just answer any questions. So this first common thread is I don't get it. The super fast example after the colon is what's supposed to be right. So this second video. And yes, that is the right one here. If you see, he's loading low and then he's coming through high. So Billy, do you have any comments with that? If you look at this second video, that's what we want to see, right?
So are we talking about the standing video where he's actually swinging without the band connected?
Yep.
Yeah. So let me back up a giant step, and maybe I'll hit the answer or not. But at least what we're seeing are two things. We do activation drills or exercises. So when he's seated there, he's going through the band, and the band is connected to the elbow. And long story made short, he's working on the muscles that open the chest, turn the chest and shoulders to the right. He's working on the muscles on the back side of the shoulder, their external rotators to get them up and get the arm in a good position. He's strengthening those muscles as he's working on a pattern, and it's actually what we call activating. It's turning on those muscles. So literally after he does, in this exercise, he probably did 10 reps of that exercise in a very slow, controlled fashion with a band on, and it kicks the muscles on. Then we tell the athlete, take the band off, unhook it from your elbow, and then we actually have him go through a swing. When those muscles are activated and you disconnect the resistance band, the muscles, the chest will just open up, the arm will move back, the arm will go through the pattern, specific movement we were just working on because we're turning those muscles on, and it just kind of happens. So the athlete's learning the right muscle memory, he's learning the right technique, and then what happens is he stands up, and with the band disconnected, everything's just flying now, right? So now, before we were working on slow strength muscle memory, ingraining the movement pattern, when we stand up, we're now working on speed through that specific movement pattern, if you would. So he's standing, his hips are turning, his chest is turning, but his arms going through those same movement patterns. He was working on slow with resistance, now in space. And so in this case, he's probably just swinging in the air, but most of the time what they're going through in the actual program is they're actually throwing a ball followed by hitting a ball on the ground and then maybe going into the air. So we have steps we go through our methodology to go from a slow seated strength exercise to standing to in the air, hitting off a hook, hitting off a toss. So in terms of that's what we're doing, the mechanics the athlete's using are really, really good here. The things he's doing are really, really good. So with that being said, Darren, I'm going to kick it back to you. Maybe you can provide more clarity. What's the specific question if I haven't answered it? That's what he's doing. Maybe that makes some sense that there's a methodology, and I'm not sure if the person doesn't understand why are they seated and then doing the standing. It's the methodology to kick things on, to build a pattern, and then build slow strength into fast strength on their feet or in the air. What am I missing here in terms of the question?
So I think you nailed or I guess you got it right. They were just saying, I don't really understand. What am I supposed to be doing, basically? So, yes, this first drill is to activate, and then that second drill is showing what he's actually been working on with that swing, right? So, I think that answers that question. But another one we got for this was it works for most players, and it also gives you a better placement of palm on ball and instigates a higher reach on the ball. But yeah, it's a developed technique and may cause cause delay and power of swing. What do you
Yeah.
think about this?
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate because especially when you've got an athlete sitting down and really mentally focused on what they're doing here. That's what we want him to do. He's doing the slow movement. We go slow with a band on one because we're trying not to torque or damage the shoulder with that band on there. He's a young athlete. His name's Caden. He's out of Chicago, but he was maybe 12, 13 at the time. So we're doing that with all our athletes. We move slow when we have a band on the shoulder, and they're having to think, right? So now you have to develop this like in any sport movement, especially a really finite or very defined movement like this. You have to focus on it to make it accurate. So when you go into practice now and you go in the air and you hit off a hook or off a toss or self toss or something else, yeah, it takes time for you to develop this full speed to where it becomes automated and you don't have to think about it. Yes, it will change your timing. That's part of athletic development of any sports movement, any sports skill. So yeah, I agree with the person's comment, and I think they actually have a good perspective and understanding of what's going on. You have to develop it slow, then you add speed to it. You take it to the air, and yes, it takes time, reps, probably weeks, months, maybe even years in some cases to develop like world class speed with the right mechanics that you're going to hit the ball hard and protect your shoulder back and everything else in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. This next thread is interesting. We have a few different comments here, so follow along. This is people commenting back and forth to people. So the first comment is this is right, basically, unless you are a middle. Then somebody else responds, no, this applies to middle too. Watch some highlights of Cuban middle blocker Javier Concepcion. I don't know how to say his last name. He has one of the deepest deepest circular arm swings ever, and he's still very fast middle attacker. You always have time to have a neutral elbow, even on fast attacks, but you need to use the weight room to your advantage to train your body to complete that large swing and motion hard and fast. Then they comment back, helps if you have a 40-inch vert and not everybody is made to do a circular arm swing. You need airtime in order to do that. Then it comes back, any advice? So maybe you can get this to this too, as you are first and foremost a trainer. Do you have any advice for weight room, specifically on lifts that make the motion faster? I agree, middles often use low, although most pro middles still draw higher than your typical outside.
Yeah,
So
there's a
yeah.
lot going on there. And there's actually, once again, I think this person who's commenting that talks about a circular swing, and yeah, they're right on numerous accounts. I'm just playing back what I remember. It is a good swing. A middle, if the middle's developed, right, can go from just a high elbow arm swing setup. They can rotate their chest and shoulder and arm, and if they're really good and work on it, then they can work on getting their hips and more of their core, their lower body engaged as well. But it's like any advanced movement, you got to go develop it, right? Just the fastest and easiest thing is raise your arm up and swing, and that's fine. You're not going to tolerate that very well long term. Maybe you're in middle school and high school, you play 6 weeks, 8 weeks out of the year, and then you're done. Great. But most volleyball players these days, they're not. They're playing club. They're trying to go to college. So there's a lot of good things, and I agree. The higher your vert, the more time you have in the air to perform more big body movements. Turn your hips, turn your shoulders, and in addition, then swing your arm in a really good slot versus driving your elbow up early. All those are good things. I'm going to take it to something practical that we talk about. So, we train middles, we train right sides, left sides, back row jump serve, whatever. The mechanics of the purest swing is, yeah, you get in the air, you open your chest to the right side, you turn your hips first, you kick your legs, so you're using everything. We have, as a lot of people know, there's a 15-year-old middle that we're working with. 6'2" is a local kid here, very athletic, has a really big upside. And when we started working with her last April, as a middle, as a 6'2" middle, as a 15-year-old, I didn't worry about her hips getting too engaged. what we see your chest and shoulders to really open to the right sideline, get your arm in a good slot, the same slot it would be if you're hitting right side, left side around a jump serve. But we're just going to focus on opening your chest and shoulders because that's going to stretch and load your abdominal muscles, back muscles, upper body muscles, not just arm and shoulder. They're going to allow you to hit the ball harder. And that's what we worked on for the longest time, right? Is opening your chest and shoulders, getting your arm in a good slot, and then doing that with power and speed. Um, Interestingly enough, this athlete's in high school right now, but started the vert program about 3 weeks ago. But we chose with her, let's work on your mechanics first. Let's get the mechanics established for you as a middle, just really focusing on opening your chest and shoulders, getting your arm in a good slot, developing arm speed with that, and then we'll come back towards the end of high school season and start working on your vert because it's hard to do both at once. They're both very time intensive, very demanding, especially in the middle of high school season. And this kid's on one of the top teams in the state. So anyway, those are all good things. That's what we would probably do with the middle, is just get them to focus on opening chest and shoulders first, get the arm going. Um, but here's the catch, right? Here is a catch. This specific athlete, even though she's playing in the middle in high school and now actually in some right side in high school, in club she plays middle because she's been taller than most of the other kids. But I look at her and I say to her, you're a Division I outside hitter. You're 6'2" already. Maybe you're gonna be 6'3" or 6'4", but you could play anywhere on the net, right? But is a lot of parents know and a lot of athletes know when you're tall, when you're young, especially for the females, you get thrown in the middle, and then all of a sudden, what happens a couple years later, you're no longer the tallest. You probably need to be outside, but no one's developed your outside hitting skill set. So my word to the wise is, just like we've done with this athlete here, yeah, we'll teach her how to go in the middle and just open her chest and shoulders, but we're also teaching her to take attack angles from the middle, from the right side to the left side, because you really don't know where you're going to play, right? You might play in the middle, you might play right side, left side, wherever. So develop your skill set as a hitter. Develop the footwork, the approach angles, the body movements. Then you could play front row, back row. You can hit out of the back row. You can serve, jump serve, whatever. Then you're really an asset to your team and not just a pin hitter or pin blocker or something like that, if that makes sense. So sorry, that's a lot, but I think the person's perspective is really good. And yeah, you can develop all these things. If you train it and develop it, there's plenty of a time, even if you don't have a 40-inch vert, right? We've got a lot of 15 and 16-year-old female athletes that don't have even 20-inch verts. Their verts are probably 15, 16, 17, which is certainly not anywhere close to being world class, but they have enough time to open and close with arm speed and pound balls and do really well with it. So, and stay healthy. So,
For sure. So, in summary, to respond to kind of all those comments, like it is possible. It just takes time to develop it. So, yes, we're not expecting to teach these players this and then they have it in the next week. It takes time. You have to break it down and then eventually they will get it. But we have a question here from Instagram. This is talking about vertical. It's what allows a player to hang in the air. I'm not sure if that's the right term, but I think they're saying, how do you get a higher vertical?
well, it starts with how much force, and we're talking specifically about volleyball, and let's talk about a hitter, like an outside hitter, left side hitter, right side hitter. We're going to narrow it down to a left side hitter so everybody can visualize that. You're going in the air, you're taking a strong approach, a strong approach, a fast approach. Number one, just like what we teach all our athletes, when you're starting as an outside, if you start like what we see when we run our clinics, right? We see athletes come in and they're all at the 10-foot line, right? And it's like they're all trained to just get to the attack line. And it's like, okay, they take a 3-step approach, they move 3 feet, there's no forward momentum, there's no vert. Part of the problem is they're not covering any ground. So you look at a world-class outside hitter and they're covering 15, 16, 18 feet. That distance in the going from 10 or 3 or 4 feet, starting at the 10-feet line to moving way back, is speed. It's momentum. That speed and momentum, just like a long jumper can jump a long ways because of the speed they have coming in. The more speed you have, the more distance you cover in your approach, the higher you're going to jump right now. Okay. That's number one, is create some distance, create some speed. Number two, you actually have to have, and I'm gonna skip to number 3. The ultimate thing you'd like to have is strength, explosive strength, and go to the weight room, right? And get the explosive muscles to help you jump strong and explosive so you can get off the ground not only with a lot of force but fast off the ground, right? Now let's back up to number 2. The thing that I guarantee is talked about very little is stability. When you're coming in and you take your last 2 steps, so if you're a right-handed hitter, that and left side, your last 2 steps are right heel, then left ball of the foot. Those last 2 steps are stopping you from going forwards. But a person that jumps really high and hits hard, those last 2 steps have to be pop into the ground. The fast movement of those feet into the ground causes the ankle, knee, hip, and spinal muscles, little muscles in the ankle, knee, hips, and spine, to rapidly stabilize. And what's that do for you? It helps the athlete get off the ground quick and fast and up. If you've got an athlete that's just been doing strength exercises, especially slow weight room exercises, they don't have any stability, they don't have any speed coming in, they're not going to be very stable. They're not going to be able to get their feet down very quickly and convert forward motion, if you would, or forward momentum towards the net into vertical jump. So I know that's really technical, but probably for every athlete we've ever trained, maybe the most important thing for speed and change of direction, vertical jump in this case, is rapid stability. The small muscles in the body, not the quads, glutes, hamstrings, back muscles, right? Those are the big guys you're making strong in the weight room, but there's a lot of other small little muscles around the ankle, knees, and hips that need to be trained to be stable. And when they can control the athlete's ability to hit the feet on the ground and convert it into vertical, that kid's going high, they're going fast. Now they're going to have more time in the air. So the person's question is, how do you hang in the air? You start with speed, you have stability when you change directions to go linear to go vertical, and then you have to have explosive power and speed in the big muscles and stabilizers as well, so you can go off the ground up high quickly, explosively.
Yeah, great answer. And to stick on the vertical kind of theme here, I have a question, or I guess a comment on this video actually. It says, when basically when this video is, just again for anybody just joining, this video is about loading your arm in a neutral position, and their comment is, you lose height in your vertical with this technique. Can you verify that or disagree, agree? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, and so okay. Yeah, I would agree initially, yes, because if you come in and you jump, right? Let's keep it simple and say you're middle and you're doing a block jump. The higher and faster your arms go, that helps your extensor muscles extend your back, your hips, your ankle, knee, and everything to get vertical off the ground. A world-class hitter that's trying to hit the ball hard and have a healthy shoulder and back weeks, months, years, decades later, has to develop the ability to take their left arm up towards the ball, and the right arm starts to go up, and then that right arm draws down underneath the chin and shoulder. Once again, it's a developed skill. The world-class hitters have developed. They weren't born that way. They developed the ability to do that. So initially, yes, I would give you, if you're just looking at pure vertical jump, swing your arms fast and high behind you, big arms we call it, right? And then throw them up to get off the ground. That's going to help you jump higher, okay? But if you want to hit the ball hard and then have a healthy shoulder and back down the road, you got to add something else. You got to refine that movement. And that's what athletes do that get better and better. That's what world-class athletes do. They develop world-class mechanics. Athletes have to determine how good what kind of mechanics do they want to develop. Are they okay just playing middle school or high school? Are they wanting to play college? Are they wanting to play pro? And are they wanting to be healthy years down the road? And that's where I'm going to get real quickly to a sidebar. It's a parent's responsibility, and it's a lot of the coaches and trainers and instructors that are listening to not only teach the athlete to jump high and hit hard, but the responsibility is also you guys, as it is ours as coaches and instructors, to teach them to use techniques that it's going to allow them to hit hard and not tear up their shoulder, their back, or their knees in the process. Otherwise, you're doing a disservice to that human being, right? Who's under your care as a 15, 13, 16, 18-year-old. And if you're destroying their shoulder in the process, boy, that's kind of selfish in my opinion. You're getting W's, but you're tearing the kid up in the process. So, hey, we can do it all. We can help them perform, get W's, get wins, get kills, but keep them healthy in the process as well. So,
yeah, and we got a comment here from YouTube. It says, speaking of being explosive off the floor, what weight exercises can you do to improve that?
All right, really simply, when you do a squat exercise out of a squat rack or you do a lunge or something like that, those are strength exercises. And depending on how you do them, the way they're done most of the time safely in the weight room, they develop strength, and it is slow strength. It's not explosive power, right? So what happens with the best trainers, strength coaches, is they're working on an athlete's vert, you might be kicking on muscles in a squat rack, in a lunge, or doing different exercises, right? We use the sleds a lot to develop some strength, to turn on the muscles and use higher and higher loads and resistance safely to make those muscles stronger, maybe sometimes bigger and stronger, right? But then the key is while those muscles get turned on, we got to teach the muscles to contract faster and develop the forces faster. Because if you just went to the weight room and you got slow and you were doing squats, you could lift a lot of weight, but you come off the ground slowly. That's how you're going to jump off the floor when you're trying to go block or trying to go jump. You're gonna have strength, but it's not explosive strength. So here's the key: go do weight room, go do slow strength exercises. But while those muscles are on within 20 or 30 seconds of that squat, don't wait till tomorrow. Today's Monday, you're doing squats. Don't go tomorrow, come back and do your jumps on Tuesday. Do your jumps 20 or 30 seconds after you've turned on those muscles from your squat rack. Get out of the squat rack, right? You're not doing max lifts here, right? But you're coming out of the squat rack. 20 or 30 seconds later, those muscles, those nerves, and everything are on. They're going to help you jump. Now we go do some explosive jumps. We do our plyos safely, right? We're looking at the technique, but now that will train the nervous system, the brain, the nerves, and the muscles to go fast and perform fast, explosive jumping movements. And of course, if those jumping movements look like something a middle would do, an outside would do, as they're converting from, doing their approach and getting the last just steps down and going vertical, like we talked about a few minutes ago, now it's going to apply to the volleyball sports movements, right? Of a middle, a left side, or right side, whatever the case is. So, um, you know, squats followed by explosive movements, great. For us, we use a lot of sleds. We train a lot of athletes. Very rarely do we put kids in squat racks. A lot of times because we're not there directly to put our hands on them to spot them and keep them safe. We think a lot better choices are using sleds, right? Because we can have a kid push a lot of weight in a sled, but we can have the kid move pretty fast in the sled, so we get more explosive speed, power, and strength out of that movement versus having them in a squat rack with too much weight on their back and spine that they can't control, and then taking them out and trying to have them jump. So anyway, I think that answers the questions.
For sure. Yeah, it does. And we got a question from Instagram. It says, would you sacrifice your shoulder for vert? I think this is a great question for not only Billy, but for all of our audience members, parents, coaches, athletes. What is your opinion on this? Would you rather jump higher and have shoulder pain, or would you rather have, protect your shoulder over the course of your career and your vert will then get to where it's supposed to be? I think that's
Yeah, I
also good.
mean, to me, it's not a question. My bias is, and you know this, every athlete I've ever trained is, I'm going to help them jump higher, run faster, hit harder, but I'm going to also do that 30 or 40 years. If I'm still around, they can look me in the eye and know I helped them. And I helped them not only get through their athletic career and do really well, but they're still healthy and can go enjoy life and still move and function with their shoulder and spine. And it doesn't have to be either or, it can be both. If you're willing to do the work, you can develop, and it's part of the normal process. Go work on your mechanics of hitting and jumping, and in time it'll work and it'll pay off for you. So I don't think
Yeah.
it's an either or.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great answer. The next question we have here, this is asking about our product offering. So we live in the Caribbean where the level is not as high as in the US. Do you offer travel clinic, or would you recommend a player travels to the USA, and how long would they need to be there for?
Well, it's interesting. I don't know where they're in the Caribbean they're at. Kelly and I was in the Virgin Islands. We're in the Virgin Islands in 2023. We had a mom that lived there and brought us out. So we were on St. Thomas and St. John's. We actually ran two clinics there for club and high school boys and girls. So we do travel, and if you're interested in having and hosting us to come do a clinic, we're happy to do that. So reach out to us. Part two of the answer is, if you come to the US to come to one of our clinics, great. We do 8-hour clinics, 4 hours on one day, 4 hours on the next. For day one's mechanics, day two is strength. Those are foundational clinics. They're really good clinics to learn the mechanics and the foundational strength. You'll leave with our equipment. So the answer to your question is you'll be there at least 2 days for the clinic. You're probably going to be there 3 or 4 days by the time you get there and leave and make your flights and all those things. But and that's a start. When you leave one of our clinics, you're going to have great knowledge, great skills. More than likely, your mechanics are going to improve dramatically. Your arm speed, ball speed is going to come up dramatically. But we'll tell you while you're there, when you leave, you got to go rep this stuff now, right? Because you don't become world class once again in a day. You can start improving and make great progress, but you'll make progress for weeks, months, years if you keep working on it. And that's what it's going to take for 99% of the athletes to get better. You got to train it.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully that answers your question. Let us know if you have any other questions with that. Otherwise, you can always contact us, DM us, or anything like that on any socials, and we can point you in the right direction for what you're looking for. I want to get back to some comments from this video here. Another comment is, I see value in both patterns. Can you break that down, Billy? And why maybe a lot of coaches, they see why it has been taught high elbow for so long, but they also see value in the neutral loading. I know we kind of just chatted about that, but just your take on it.
Yeah, I mean, here's the value, or value is not the word that really works, but I understand the question. When you teach a high elbow initially to an athlete, it's really simple to perform and easy to teach, right? So, I get it. I get it conceptually for a brief moment in time that you might teach that to get the arms to start to move. The problem is you're teaching the arm to move in a position that the shoulder does not tolerate volume, speed, or anything else. And once again, Kelly, who works with us, who runs our clinics, a physical therapist for over 26, 27 years. And so we talk about this all the time. A high elbow swing puts the shoulder in a position that if you have shoulder pain and you go in to see the therapist or the doc, they're going to put your arm and shoulder specifically in that position and see if it creates pain. If it does, that might be part of an indication, a positive indication that you have an anterior superior shoulder impingement. That's not good, right? So it's easy to teach a high elbow swing. It's just super easy to teach. It's not a big movement with your chest and shoulders and legs and all this other stuff. It's easy to teach and easy to perform, right? So that's the short answer there. That's the value in teaching that. However, once you know better, once you get to talk with someone that understands the anatomy of the shoulder and really the biomechanics and physiology, it doesn't really warrant teaching or training in that position for me at all. So I would never teach that. I'm going to teach the arm and shoulder to work in the same ways anatomically that a baseball thrower throws a pitch at 100 or 90 miles an hour, a football quarterback throws a football, a tennis player hits an overhead smash. They're all very similar positions, right, of the body and specifically of the shoulder here. Volleyball, by the way, is the only, and actually it's pretty much in the US. A lot of overseas volleyball doesn't teach high elbow, right? So a lot of what's going on is happening just in the US, but no other rotational sport where you throw or hit something up over the head is teaching the elbow and arm to get up in that position. So in my opinion, what we're trying to do is train and educate and inform coaches to understand the anatomy, the physiology, and the biomechanics of why you shouldn't do that, because it's just not healthy for the arm and shoulder. It doesn't mean if a kid does it in that way that they're going to hurt their shoulder, but if they do it enough, if they do it long enough with enough volume, enough reps, especially if they get into college, at a Division I or Division II program and they're really hitting with a lot of volume and speed, they're just probably not going to tolerate very well. So, I just can't teach something that I feel like is going to tear up the shoulder or the back or something else in the process.
For sure. Yeah, great answer. We have another question here from Instagram. It says, how long does it typically take to change my swing? This is a great question.
Well, short term, it can take about 5 minutes, right? And that swing is happening in your brain. You're thinking about it, right? And that's what happens when you learn any new movement. In this case, you're thinking about a swing. We show you a movement. We give you a feel. You start working with that. You can change that swing in 5 minutes, but it's not muscle memory. It's not permanent. It's there as long as that thought is in the forefront of your mind. If you want to change it into muscle memory, it takes probably hundreds of thousands of reps, weeks, months, and probably years to really make it permanent and to make it to the point you don't have to think about it, okay? great example. There's another kid that we train here that's just turned 16 outside for one of the local teams, best team, and actually they're playing the other best teams in the state of Colorado. But she was a kid, and we've got many videos of her comparing her when she was 13 to some of the best world-class volleyball hitters, and there's some YouTube videos out there on our channel you can look at. Long story made short, I watch a lot of their matches, here when I can, and I can see her on every swing goes up in the air. Her body naturally wants to get in reverse power C. She trained as a 13-year-old for 3 or 4 months, very heavy and very hard, and she did it at 13 or 14 when she didn't have 5 or 6 or 7 years of a bunch of bad swings that were in there, because the bad swings don't go away. Your brain wants to take those swings, right? Because she was 13 and did a lot of these swings and developed the right movement patterns when she was 13, they're already there. She just turned 16 2 weeks ago. But yeah, she goes in the air and her body is naturally going into these positions, reverse power C, pulling her elbow down, putting her body in a really good kind of world-class mechanical position to start to swing. So it can happen relatively quickly, especially if the athlete's super focused and trains with a lot of focus, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. That's a great question from Instagram. I'm going to finish out today by just going through the last comment here that I think will be interesting. It says, why not see what comes naturally and modify from there? I don't get it. Wouldn't your body naturally want to figure it out? The response to this question is, if you do it incorrectly, you may have shoulder problems soon. At least that's what my coach said. So what is your response to kind of those comments there, Billy?
Well, yeah, I think there was a couple of different questions in there. I'm going to address the first one, which was, why not just naturally let your body respond? Well, people model. That's how we learn, right? Babies don't understand language, but what they do is they see things. And everybody models, whether you're a human, a duck, a chicken, or whatever else. Young animals, young babies, young humans, they model visually with what they see. So if all they're seeing is a high elbow swing that goes up here and swings down the right side of the body and no torso, no hip rotation, that's what they're going to think is right. And then, we see it all the time too. Volleyball athletes come in and all they're hearing is arm swing, arm swing, arm swing. And so they're coming in just trying to swing their arm. And we're saying to them, hey, there's numerous ways to swing your arms with power. How about you actually use your body and your arm together, right? And add the power from your legs, your hips, your core to your arm swing, right? So anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying there's numerous ways to do it. Tell me the first question, Darian. I'm losing my train of thought. Ask the question one more time.
Why not see what comes naturally and modify from there?
So naturally, you might be seeing and modeling something that just isn't right. And so to me, that's a slow boat to China. And then let's go have shoulder pain or back pain and then decide we need to change it versus how about we accelerate the process and teach a young athlete and let them feel the right movement first and then start repeating the right movement, start building the right foundational movements, for their shoulder, their body, their back, whatever the case is.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Well, I want to wrap up today by just giving some updates on what's going on, what you need to know, what clinics are going on, what offerings you could do to train with us. So fall clinics are here. We're accepting for how many only a couple more weeks, right, Billy?
Yep.
That's how long they'll be open for. So just a couple more weeks to be able to sign up for those. We have a few different locations. So if you're interested in that, but you'll also want to be on the lookout because 2025 calendar will be getting released soon. And we have some really fun cities and different locations that you guys have been asking for. So make sure you pay attention to that. And also, if you can't make a clinic and you still want to train with us, make sure you're checking out our website for the masterclass. You can train from anywhere for 8 weeks. You can train with us. And you get a lot of value out of that with some coaching online. Any other things I'm missing there, Billy?
Just vertical jump will be starting again here probably in the next 4 to 5 weeks. Since there was a lot of vertical jump questions today, keep an eye out for that. That's a great program that we run as well and run it virtually so we can help athletes across the U.S. and pretty much across the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know, like Billy said, we had some great questions today about, how do you stay in the air longer? How do you jump higher? Things like that. you want to jump higher and you want to hit the ball harder from jumping higher, then definitely check out the vertical jump class. That will be a great class for you. We will be back next Tuesday doing VolleyTalk again. If you guys want to ask any questions or anything like that for us to answer next week, either DM us or leave a comment on a post, and we'll be sure to answer those. And we'll be back next week answering all of your guys' volleyball questions. All right. Well, we will see you guys later.